Hey guys, this is Chad, CEO of Above Ground Pros and founder of Easy Pool Academy. Now let me start here. This is not a video on how to winterize your pool. Now we do have a link in the description below the video that's going to go over all the basic parts of what you're going to do when you actually winterize the pool. This video is about the different winterizing options that you have. Okay, you know, a question I get tremendously towards the end of the season is, winter's coming up, what can I do with my pool? What are the options? Do I have to close it? Can I keep it open? And if I close it, what kind of cover should I use? Yada, yada. I'm going to go through that with you. And then at the end of this video, there's a handful of products out there for winterizing, and I want to go over these products with you so that you understand what these products do so that you can make an educated decision on what's going to work best for you. Because when it all comes down to it, the answer when people say, what should I do this winter? The real answer is, well, what's your situation and what's going to serve you and what do you want to do? And that's what this video is all about. So let's get started here with the four most common winterizing options. These are the most common things that people are going to do. You know, I'd say 98% of the people out there are going to fall into these into one of these four categories. And our first one is going to be keeping the pool open all winter. Okay, you know, this has become a lot more popular here of late than it was years ago. Is people are putting in these pools, they're building a nice deck around it, putting a fire pit out there. They might do a hot tub jacuzzi. They want to hang out on this deck throughout the winter, throughout the fall, early in the spring, and they don't want to look at this cover sitting on a swimming pool. You know, I know a lot of customers that want to put a fountain in their pool to give it some aesthetics throughout the winter. But so if you want to keep your pool open, go for it. But here's what you need to know. Number one, periodic maintenance on the pool, it's going to continue. You know, you're still going to have to vacuum it, clean baskets, deal with your chemicals from time to time. You're still going to basically do everything you've been doing throughout the summer, but it's going to be a much lower amount of sanitizer, which means your chlorine or whatever you're using for sanitizer. You're going to use a tremendous amount less because algae can't grow in swimming pools in water below 60 degrees. So keeping a pool clean and crystal clear in the winter is a piece of cake. You barely got to put any sanitizer in there whatsoever, okay? But you're still going to have to, like I said, vacuum it, keep up with your maintenance, clean your filters, this type of stuff, okay? Number two is you must keep this in mind. That water in the filter system could freeze. And if it does, the ice is going to expand, cracking the plastic components of the pump and filter. You know, these pump and filters are pretty much made out of completely plastic parts. Here's the concept. The pump and filter system must be running. You must have that pump running during the freezing parts of the winter. So here's the biggest trick with keeping your pool open all winter is if you're going to keep it open, you must keep in mind that if it's going to get in the freezing temperatures and water's going to freeze, you got to run your pump. And a lot of times this means running your pump 24/7 throughout the really cold days of the winter. Now, depending on where you live geographically, this might mean 2 weeks, this might mean 4 months. So you got to kind of decide, you know, how that's going to work for you. But the biggest problem with people keeping their pools open is not keeping up with running that pump and keeping that water moving. You got to keep the water moving so that it can't freeze and it doesn't break your pump and filter. I mean, a pump and filter system can be $400, $500, $600. You don't want to start your season off buying a new pump and filter, okay? So if you want to keep your pool open, that's what you need to know. Now, the second option is probably the most common option of what most people do with their above ground pools is they cover the pool with a solid winter cover. Now, what I mean with a solid winter cover is a solid cover is going to prevent rainwater and debris from getting in the pool's water. And that rainwater and the debris, you know, leaves falling out of the trees, what have you, it's going to collect on top of the cover. So rainwater and the debris is going to collect on top of the water during the winter months, which means come spring, you're going to have to get that rainwater off, and you're going to have to get that debris off before you take your cover off. And sometimes that can be a pain, and that's why there's other options out there, because sometimes people don't like dealing with that. Now, you must also keep in mind that if you go with a solid winter cover, that water must be removed from the top of the cover periodically throughout the winter to prevent water building up and tearing of the cover. Now, this is what I mean by that. If you put a solid winter cover on top of your pool, the cover is designed to be a little bit bigger than the pool so that the cover lays on top of the water, of your pool's water. Now, the reason for this is if you pulled this cover, because all the winter cover really is a round tarp. That's basically the gist of it. And if you pulled that winter cover real tight and it rained that night, you might get 1,000 pounds of water weight on top of that cover. The weight of that water would pull it down and rip that cover to shreds. Well, even if the cover's laying on top of the water, now it can rain on top of the water, on top of the cover, and it's not going to tear your cover. But what's going to happen is if that rain over the winter months builds up and builds up and builds up and builds up, eventually so much water is going to get on top of that cover that it's going to start pulling on the cover. And if it starts pulling on the cover, it can tear the cover because too much water weight's on there. And then all that yuck gets down in the pool, yada, yada. So the bottom line is you got to pump the water off from time to time. Now, this is what I tell people. You don't have to pump the water off the top of your cover every single time it rains. That's too much work. What you do need to do, though, is pump the water off when it starts accumulating to a high percentage, okay? So that's what you need to know if you want to go with a solid winter cover. Now, your third option is going to be covering the pool with a mesh or a leaf cover. Now, what a mesh/leaf cover is going to allow the rainwater to get in the pool's water, but it's going to catch the debris. Now, some of the reason people like to do this is you put this mesh cover on top of the pool, all the leaves that fall out of the trees aren't going to get in the pool. It's going to stay on top of the cover. But if it rains, that rainwater is going to get down into the pool and mix with your swimming pool water. And people like to do this a lot of times because then you don't have to pump the water off the cover throughout the winter months, and it makes it a little easier to take it off. So we've got here that debris will collect on top of the cover. No rainwater will need to be pumped off during the winter, which is going to keep you from having to go out there and pump the rainwater off. So the turnaround on this is going to be that removing the cover in the spring is going to be easier for you because you're not going to have to be dealing with the water on top of your cover, but it comes at a cost. And the cost is you potentially starting your year up, your spring up, your season up with green water. So I normally recommend this to people. If you're going to go with a mesh cover, you want to close your pool late in the season once the water cools down, and open your pool early in the spring before the water gets real warm. Again, algae is not going to grow in water below a certain temperature, and it's going to help prevent you from getting real nasty water, okay? Now, even if you go this route, the problem with trying to clear up a green pool isn't so much the green water, it's dealing with a pool that's got a bunch of junk in it. I know customers that haven't done anything to their pool in 2 years, and it's this thick of leaves and the water's green. That's a nightmare. But if only the water's green, you normally can shock it, you can treat it with chemicals, and in a couple of days your pool's clear and you're back in business, okay? So that's an option for you as well. And then our fourth and final most common option is going to be this: covering the pool with a solid and a mesh cover. Now, the downside of this is you got to buy 2 covers. The plus side of this is it's the easiest way to open your pool up in a year. There's a lot of customers that we close their pools down in the winter, and we make them do this because this is a perfect situation for pools with lots of winter debris. You know, there's some people out there, they got a pool in the middle of a field and it never gets debris in it. There's other customers that have their pool and trees all over the pool, and it's going to be full of junk come fall, okay? So this is a perfect situation if you're going to get lots of debris in your pool throughout the winter. So what's going to happen is the solid cover is going to prevent the rainwater or the debris from getting in the pool's water. Now the solid cover would be put down first. You hook that up first. Then you put the mesh cover on top of the solid cover. What this is going to do is the mesh cover is going to separate the debris from the rainwater, which means when you go out there in the spring to take your covers off, you pull your mesh cover off and all the trash comes with it. And then all that's left on the solid cover is going to be rainwater. And that way you throw a cover pump on there or a garden hose, you get a siphon, you pump the water off, you take that cover off, and you're back in business. And no rainwater and no debris has got inside your pool water throughout the winter. So this is a great option for you, because the biggest pain in the neck with trying to pump water off your cover is when there's so many leaves on top of your cover mixed with the water. You're trying to pump the water off, but the leaves keep clogging up your cover pump or this and that, and it just becomes a big headache. So if you have lots of debris around the pool, this is probably the route I'm going to recommend for you. Again, you got to buy 2 covers, which is going to cost you maybe, you know, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, $100 more, but it's going to make it a million times easier for you. Your pool's going to be clear when you open it up in the spring, and it's going to save you some money from having to put money in chemicals and do that. But it just makes your life a lot easier, okay? So I recommend this to a lot of people that are going to have lots of debris, okay? And let me say this. If you close your pool down properly, you're going to open your pool up and it's going to be clean, okay? You know, one thing that makes me laugh a lot is when we get new pool owners and we close their pools down. You know, let's say somebody bought a swimming pool this year and we close their pool down for them at the end of this year, and we go out next year and we open the pool up, and they're always nervous, you know, how the water's going to look, and we take that cover off and the pool looks great and they're blown away. Well, that's what it should look like, and if you close it down properly, that's what it's going to look like, okay? So these are your 4 main options on what you can do, the most common things that people do come wintertime. Now I want to go over with you some of the products that are out there that you're going to tie into your closing. And I want to explain them to you. And you may need these, you may not, but I want to educate you, because I've noticed that on these particular products, people get misunderstood on what these products are for and what they actually do. And that's what I want to go over this with you. So let's start here with air pillows. Probably the biggest misconception out here in the above ground business is what air pillows are going to do, okay? So let me explain this. This is what air pillows are for. First of all, I told you a second ago that when you buy a cover, it's designed to lay on top of the pool's water. It's supposed to be that way. That way it can rain and all the weight of the water isn't pulling your cover down and tearing it to shreds. So it's supposed to lay on top of the cover. Well, the problem's going to be if you're in a real cold climate area and your pool's going to become a block of ice, that cover is going to lay on top of that block of ice, and when, you know, the ice freezes and thaws and that ice moves and it grabs onto that cover, it's going to yank on that cover and it's going to tear it and just rip it to shreds. So the idea of an air pillow prevents the ice in the pool's water from destroying your winter cover. You know, your cover's laying on top of that water, it turns to ice, it moves, it stretches the cover, and it rips it to pieces. So you put that air pillow under there so that when it does freeze and there's any yanking or pulling, you've got some air space in there that's going to move with the cover and it's not going to tear your cover up, okay? So that's what an air pillow is for. And now let me explain this. An air pillow is not big enough that it will not lift the cover up in the air so high that water's going to run, when it rains, water's going to run off the cover onto the ground. And this seems to be the big misconception with air pillows, because what people seem to have in their mind is if I put this air pillow on there, it's going to lift the cover up in the air, so when it rains, water's going to hit your cover, just run off the pool and run down the ground. No, that's not going to happen. What's going to happen, and here's a picture of the air pillow right here. What's going to happen is that's all an air pillow is going to do. So you're going to get water collecting and debris collecting around the air pillow. Okay, what the air pillow is for is to protect your winter cover from getting tore apart when your water becomes a block of ice, basically. Okay, so that's an air pillow. Our second one is going to be cover pumps. Okay, now if you go with any kind of solid cover and you're going to get water on top of your winter cover, you're going to have to take that water off the top of your cover periodically throughout the winter. So you're going to need a cover pump, or some people just siphon it with a garden hose. But a cover pump is just an easiest way to do it. And what it is just a small sump pump. You hook it to a garden hose. Here's a picture of it on my presentation here. You throw it in there, it pumps the water off, no big deal. So it's going to remove the rainwater from the top of the cover, which is going to prevent damage to the cover if you get too much rainwater on there. Now, cover pumps are available in manual and automatic on and off. Now, what I mean by that is there's manual, which means you throw it on top of your cover, and whenever the water gets high, you go out, you plug it in, it turns it on, you unplug it when you're done. Or you can normally pay $25 more and get a cover pump that's an automatic on-off. And what that means is once you get a certain amount of water on top of that cover, the cover pump's going to automatically cut on, pump the water off, and cut off when the water gets low again. Now, the nice thing with an automatic cover pump, which is something I recommend, it's a couple bucks more for, less maintenance from you. Now, you don't have to go out there and see, do I need to pump the water off or do I not? You just plug that baby in, set it on top of the cover. When the water comes up, the cover turns it on and off. You can go about your winter and do your other business, okay? So that's cover pumps. Now, another one is water bags. Now, we don't use water bags a whole lot in the above ground business, and here's why. Here's the concept of it. First of all, a cover is designed to go around the top seats of the pool, and there's a cable that goes all the way around it that tightens together and holds it underneath the top seats. Well, I've got customers that build decks all the way around their pool, right up against the pool, where you can't get the cover between the pool and the deck to be able to give it underneath there. And when that's the case, you normally got to revert to water bags, which are very popular in the in-ground world, because in the in-ground world, you've got a concrete deck around the pool, you have to do it that way. And here's the concept. Water bags are used when the cover cannot be installed under the pool's top seats, which is what I just shared for you. And it's perfect for pools with wraparound decks that have decks all the way around the pool. And you can see by my picture here, this is an in-ground pool, and they lay the cover on top of the decking, and then they put these water bags, which are basically just 8, 10, 12-foot water bags that you fill up with water. And then the weight of that bag holds the cover down. It's basically the concept of, standing on your cover all winter so that the wind don't blow it off, okay? So that's what water bags are for. Again, they're not real popular in the above ground world, because normally we can get the cover underneath the top seats, and that's the way I like to do it. But when you can't do that, water bags is going to be the option for you. And then the last thing I wanted to go over with you with some of these winterizing products and explain this to you are going to be plug kits. Now, here's the concept. Let's say you're going to close your pool down. You've got one of two options. First of all, you have to get the water out of your pump and filter. Because if you have a bunch of water in your pump and filter, it's going to freeze, it's going to expand, it's going to crack, and it's going to be a financial headache when you open up your pool next year and have to buy a new pump and filter system, okay? So you have one of two options. Number one, you drain the water in your pool below your skimmer and below your return. Now, once you get the water below your skimmer and return, there's no water coming into your filter system. Now you can disconnect your filter system or take your drain plugs out, or whichever route you take, and get all the water out of your filter system, and you'll be good to go. Well, the downside of that is you're losing water and you're losing chemicals that you've put in that water. Now, you're not losing a ton, maybe 6 inches of water, but the bottom line is you're still losing water. So what we like to do is when we close up pools, a lot of times is use plug kits. Now what plug kits are is they are going to protect the skimmer from cracking, and they're going to plug the return. Now you see in my picture here, that black cylindrical piece that we're putting in the skimmer, what that's going to do is you screw that down into the hole in your skimmer, and it's hollow. So basically, when you keep your water level up to normal and you close your pool down, you're still going to have water in your skimmer. Well, that water is going to freeze and it's going to expand. Well, it's going to push against the skimmer and crack the skimmer if you don't use a plug like this. If you screw that plug in, it's a hollow plug, and now when the ice expands, instead of pushing against your skimmer and breaking it, it's going to squeeze on that plug that's hollow, and it's not going to break your skimmer. Okay, and then you see in our picture here, we have that little rubber plug with a wing nut at the bottom right of the picture, and that's screwed into your return, which is basically just a plug that's going to keep water from going into your return. You don't need to worry about your return freezing and cracking. You just need to plug the water so that it doesn't go through there. Now, the nice concept of this is it's going to prevent you from having to drain your water below your skimmer and return, which is going to save you water and it's going to save you chemicals. Okay, and this is normally how I like to do it. Then you open up your pool, you got your water at the normal water level. You literally take your cover off, you pull your plugs out, hook your system up, and bam, you're swimming, you're ready to go. Okay, so that's going to save you a little water, save you a little chemicals. So that's what I wanted you guys to know on this video. I wanted you to know what your options are. You get to decide for the personality of your pool and your geographic location on what's going to work best for you. And then those are the 4 different products that I see in the pool business and for winterizing: the plug kits, the cover pumps, the water bags, and the air pillows. And that's what those things are for. And I want you to be clear on what we use those for and the purpose for. Okay? You guys enjoy it and have a great winter.